This is episode 130 of the Guns Magazine podcast. Hi there, and welcome to the Guns Magazine podcast. I'm your host and the editor of Guns Magazine, Brent T. Thanks for joining us as we talk to the interesting folks who make up the world of shooting, hunting, and the firearms industry. But first, before we get started, let's have a quick chat about our sponsor, Luth-AR. Luth-AR is home of MBA buttstocks, which are affordable, lightweight, fully adjustable buttstocks for your AR-15 fixed and collapsible rifles. But that's not all. Luth-AR is your one-stop shop for build kits, replacement parts, and custom accessories, including the Chubby Grip, palm handguards, oversized switch safety, and paddle bolt catch. Luth-AR is proudly made in the USA, and with 4 decades of experience, they'll continue their mission of innovate to dominate with high-quality products for your ARs. Find out more at luthar.com. We've got a really sketchy guest today on the podcast, me. In the April 2022 issue of Guns Magazine, my Insider column discussed the true story from last year when I ended up in the hospital with metal fragments in my gut due to a gun malfunction. I think the story is equal parts humorous and cautionary, so I thought the podcast audience might also enjoy a listen. Now, here we go with The Day I Got Shot. The Day I Got Shot, from the April 2022 issue of Guns Magazine by Brent T. Whenever your workday involves evaluation by 2 trauma surgeons, you probably should have stayed in bed. Let me explain. One day last spring, I pulled into the range and was pleased to see it empty. By virtue of being honorably retired from the police department, I have access to our non-public police shooting range whenever the department isn't using the facility. After setting up my targets and my portable shooting table, I got the gun that shall remain nameless out of its case. All was ready to test fire this latest revolutionary firearm that will change the industry, at least this week. I loaded up a couple of magazines and shoved one into the gun. The sun smiled down, a gentle wind blew, and I think a bluebird flew past as I dropped the bolt into battery and shouldered the gun. Click. I immediately ran the bolt and tried again. Click. Growing confounded, I ran the bolt one more time. As my fingers released the operating lever, things got interesting. As the bolt picked up the next round from the magazine, there was a demonstration of common high school physics. 2 objects cannot physically occupy the same space at the same time. In this case, the 2 objects were cartridges. The first had stubbornly remained sitting in the chamber, while the newcomer insolently slammed into its rear. The round in the chamber exploded, while the second, not wanting to miss out on the fun, likewise detonated. Instantly, I knew something had gone massively wrong. My chest and hands were numb, my shooting glasses had been knocked askew, and my ears were ringing in spite of hearing protection. It was then I noticed several jagged shards of brass sticking out of my forearm. Dang it, I thought to myself with a calm I didn't know I possessed. It was immediately apparent I had experienced an out-of-battery detonation, something I had seen happen before, and I knew it wasn't wholly uncommon. So, okay, I thought to myself, it happens. Hitch up your foundation garments, safe the gun, and pick the brass out of your arm. No big deal. Remembering my training from the cop shop days, I thought it prudent to inspect myself for other injuries, because I've known people who had been shot or seriously injured and didn't even know it at first. I told myself I was being a little overly dramatic for such a mundane event, but I performed the self-check anyway. My stomach felt a little numb, but I thought that was just due to the concussion of the not inconsiderable blast. Rubbing around under my shirt and feeling no bits of metal or other debris, I nonchalantly thought, I must have spilled my water bottle when that happened. Then I realized I didn't have a water bottle with me. In horror, I saw my 3 left fingers were slicked with bright red blood. My blood, the sweet, sweet, precious fluid, the very essence of life. It's one of my most important possessions and something I really don't want to see anywhere outside of a test tube at the doctor's office. Now I looked down and it was slowly spreading like lava across the front of my khaki shirt. such things get your attention. Well, I thought almost matter-of-factly, I've been shot in the stomach with a large caliber bullet. Then the magnitude of my predicament struck me. As a practicing hypochondriac who is wholly capable of turning a minor gas pain into a fatal case of liver flukes, this realization positively set me over the edge. In a split second, I knew I was dying, and the thought made me inexplicably angry rather than upset or afraid. A few seconds later, though, good sense returned, and I got scared spitless. You'll notice I said spitless. Fortunately, after a minute or so of panic and hyperventilation, I suddenly remembered what a nameless instructor told me a long time ago. If you're worried about how bad you're not hurt that bad. It was strangely calming advice. I then lifted my shirt and examined the new 3/8-inch belly button just above the factory original. It was bleeding, but not gushing or spurting, so loss of blood, at least externally, wasn't really the immediate problem. I had concerns about the damage done to my innards, but after a few seconds of studying my pulse rate, breathing, and checking for signs of liver flukes, I decided it might be serious, but not immediately. Getting down to business, I knew I needed help, and a call to 911 seemed prudent. As I picked up my cell phone and started to dial, I suddenly realized a dispatch of "man shot on the police firing range" would bring medics, the fire department, the police and sheriff's department. They would soon be followed by local and regional media, a host of random red light chasers, and probably a food truck marching band and Dog the Bounty Hunter with a full camera crew. I really didn't feel like being the star of such a 9-ring circus, so I just loaded up my truck, admittedly rather rapidly and haphazardly, and drove myself to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, I called a friend who was working as the afternoon supervisor on the police department. When I told him of my situation, he was incredulous. "Pull over now," he said, "and I'll drive you in." In my best John Wayne manner, I said, "Nah, it's just a flesh wound, and I'll meet you at the ER. I'm fine." I mostly meant it. We both arrived at the ER at the same time, and in meeting him in the parking lot, I could tell he was impressed with my bloody shirt and rampant machismo, or something analogous to that. I will say one enjoyable moment was when the young nursing student at the front door, who was charged with enforcing COVID mask protocols and temperature checks, blurted out the classic, "Are you okay?" Well, not really, but thanks for asking. Inside, I was officially declared a GSW, that's medical shorthand for gunshot wound, and hustled inside the ER for various tests, but only after I bled a little on the admittance desk. Here's one medical tip. If you encounter a long wait at the ER, try mentioning you've been shot. It'll move you right up to the front of the line just behind the heart attack victims. It made the day go much quicker than I expected. As I was quite healthy in the grand scheme of things, it was kind of exciting to witness all the medical drama as the guest of honor. I'd have enjoyed it more if not for the whole hot lead in the guts thing. After a couple of hours and a full battery of tests, the ER doctor entered the trauma room once again, where my wife and I were practicing our lamentations, to happily announce, "Well, today is your lucky day." "Pardon me if I don't share your enthusiasm," I said rather curtly. The doctor went on to explain, after consultation with both the local surgeon and regional trauma experts in nearby capital city, an operation wasn't necessary. It turned out a chunk of metal, likely the part of the thick head portion of one shell casing, had entered my abdomen, but had stopped 1 millimeter from burrowing into what is technically known as the guts. If the piece had entered with just a smidgen more gusto, I'd have been winging my way south to a level 1 trauma center for emergency surgery. I grudgingly went along with her perspective regarding my fate. Most surprising to me was the fact that no treatment was necessary aside from keeping the wound clean and watching for infection. I later discovered, by asking every single doctor of my acquaintance, including a PhD in crop science, that it was standard procedure to leave shrapnel in place, as there's often a greater danger of complications from surgically rooting around rather than just leaving it alone. Thus, with a new tetanus shot and a butt full of antibiotics, I went home. Now, today, I'm fine, though occasionally an odd movement will bring a reminder of one formerly fine spring afternoon. The piece of brass is still there, and my doctor tells me it will likely someday surface on its own, an event I simply can't wait to experience. Physically, there are no other after effects, though occasional bouts of hypochondria have me wondering when the brass will suddenly migrate to someplace important and instantly kill me. At least that gives me something real to worry about besides deadlines and liver flukes. Hopefully you enjoyed my little tale, but also learned a few things in case you ever have a really bad day on the firing range. And with that, I'd like to thank you for listening to the Guns Magazine podcast. Guns Magazine was first on the newsstand, and today we're bringing you the most interesting chats in the gun world. If you've got any questions or comments about the show, please email me. That would be editor@gunsmagazine.com. Make sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast directory, YouTube, and of course you can always listen at gunsmagazine.com. And while you're online, don't forget to check out our great sister publications, American Handgunner Magazine at AmericanHandgunner.com, AmericanCop.com, and our numerous special editions available for sale on our websites. Most of all, while you're online, I'd also appreciate it if you would share a favorite episode or some kind words on your own social media. Well, that's it for this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. For the entire staff at FMG Publications, I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent T. Now get out there and get shooting.